Warning! Kinda Murdery contains adult themes, explicit language, and descriptions of violence. It is not suitable for anyone, and we recommend you stop listening now.
True crime with a dash of the paranormal, the garish, the strange, and the darkly comic. A podcast that's about more than just murder. It's my very own pocket dimension, home to a curated collection of bizarre and compelling stories. The unsolved, the unsettling, and the unbelievable. I cover it all, just so long as it's kinda murdery. When I sat down to prepare today's episode, I just didn't feel like scuba diving my way deep into another ocean of horrible human possibility. I couldn't do grim. So what did I do? Well, this was my actual search term. I Googled, and I quote, crazy fucking historical stories, hoping to find something wild and wildly entertaining, but not too dark that I could research further and tell you about. The first result to pop up when you Google, quote, crazy fucking historical stories is a 2015 Cracked.com article entitled 21 Jaw-Dropping Sex Stories That Just Happen to Be True. Not my usual fare, but I decided to trust in fate, so I clicked on it. And it was exactly what the title declared. Number 15 on the list of 21 jaw-dropping sex stories that just happen to be true was a photo of various street signs with the word just written above the stop on the stop sign. So you can picture it, this collection of street signs included do not enter, dead end, one way, and just stop. And the headline said simply, a South Dakota man spent 2006 and 2007 videotaping himself humping street signs. What? Below that it said, police found him lurking with a camera in a neighbor's yard and viewed his footage. He was charged with burglary, indecent exposure, and unlawful occupancy. There was no other information. And in some ways, the charges sound a little mundane. Theoretically, someone could be really drunk, think their neighbor's house was their own, and that they'd locked themselves out, wind up peeing on the lawn and then forcing the door, stumbling inside, falling asleep on the couch, and while all those things are clearly illegal, they're a mostly harmless, at least in intent, set of actions that could also result in charges of burglary, indecent exposure, and unlawful occupancy. Like I said, based on the charges, seems a little run-of-the-mill, but based on the description, a South Dakota man spent 2006 and 2007 videotaping himself humping street signs? Well, I had to find out more. And when I did, I discovered today's story, Kinda Murdery's The Increasingly Dark Life of Verle Dills, starts now. First of all, before this story begins, fair warning, please remember the disclaimer at the beginning of every Kinda Murdery episode. Kinda Murdery is not appropriate for anyone, and we suggest you stop listening now. Generally, I do what I can to avoid swearing and choose stories that, while dark and terrible, are basically appropriate. Today's story is not one of those stories. It is sexually explicit in nature and very inappropriate for everyone, especially children, so if you're listening with a child, stop. If you're uncomfortable with similar subject matter, turn the show off. Alright, fair warning delivered. And while this story is inappropriate, it is also on the surface hilarious. Humping street signs? Come on, right? Case in point, the story, which originated in South Dakota, made the rounds throughout the country and across the internet as a tongue-in-cheek blurb. It even appeared in the British paper The Independent out of London, England, and was described as follows. Police responded to reports of a man snooping around local homes with a video camera and a tripod. They raided his home and found a large amount of videos of him having sex with assorted street signs. That made it as far as England. Gives a whole new meaning to those speed bump warning signs that say humps ahead, am I right? Anyway, it's funny. Hilarious even. It's hard to picture anything less inherently erotic than a stop sign or any street sign, really. And so the idea of a guy compulsively boning a wrong way do not enter sign, or perhaps making sweet, unhurried love to a slow sign, or seeing a yield sign as an invitation and then taping himself, accepting that invitation. It is funny. If it were an episode of Saturday Night Live or Family Guy, it would be really funny. But they say that the root of comedy is tragedy, and this didn't happen on a long-running sketch comedy show or an animated sitcom. This happened in real life. And as I couldn't find much about it on the broader internet, I then dove deep into newspaper archives to uncover as much as I could about the real story of Verle, the bike lane banger Dills. Sexual and or romantic attraction to inanimate objects is called objectophilia, or objectum sexuality. OS individuals describe experiencing emotional, romantic, and or sexual feelings toward inanimate objects or structures. And if that's all this story was about, then it would be much funnier throughout. But ultimately, all jokes aside, it's anything but funny, and far more complicated than just man humps street sign. So, with an eye to uncovering mysteries and motivations, let's dive into it. Verle Peter Dills, that's Verle, V-E-R-L-E, like Merle with a V, and believe it or not, Verle Dills, the man who by 2007 was known around Sioux Falls, South Dakota as Bubba, and wound up dubbed by thesmokinggun.com Bubba Humps, a man best known for shucking his corn to every no right on red sign in Sioux Falls. Well, Verle Dills had a twin brother named, wait for it, Merle Dills. That's right, twins named Merle Dills and Verle Dills, which sounds like another SNL sketch about a pair of adorably clumsy pickle farmers. And while pickle farming, especially in public, does appear to have been a favorite activity of Verle Dills, our stop means go walk sign wanker, I have no aspersions at all to cast upon his brother Merle, who I'm certain has suffered enough, especially considering how often it's generally assumed that twins have so much in common. So, let's begin at the beginning. Twin brothers Merle and Verle Dills were born, presumably in Shelby, Nebraska, on April 18, 1947, to Wayne and Eleanor Dills. They had an older brother named Dennis Pee Wee Dills, who passed away in 2004, 3 years before Verle became the flagpole frauteur. Out of respect to Dennis, I'll leave the origins of the nickname Pee Wee, as it may or may not relate to his brother Verle, unexplored. In the 2014 movie The Kingsman, Colin Firth's Harry Hart says, "A gentleman's name should only appear in the newspaper 3 times, when he's born, when he's married, and when he dies." The life of Verle Dills is perhaps a cautionary tale as to why those words are words to live by, for Verle appeared in the newspaper dozens of times, most of those before his infamous arrest. Verle Peter Dills' early life tells the story of an all-American golden boy, the kind of son that any parent would dream of. In 1955, at the tender age of 8, he performed Shining Stars alongside his brother Merle in the Christmas program at the First Methodist Church in Tecumseh, Nebraska. In 1956, at age 9, he was a member of the Tecumseh Peanut Baseball League champion Giants, who triumphed over the Indians in a 4th overtime game that occurred because the two teams had identical records after 3 games of a double elimination tournament. In 1961, as a freshman in high school, he made his very first of many honor roll appearances on the first 6 weeks honor roll, alongside his brother Merle. In 1962, he was a pallbearer when his grandmother Alma Brogard passed away in Harlan, Iowa. In January of 1963, he and his brother Merle were featured in the Harlan News as one of only 7 sets of twins and 1 set of triplets in the history of Shelby High. In November of that year, he made the honor roll again. On May 4, 1964, his junior year, he won a typing award at the Fine Arts Banquet for typing 45 words a minute. On May 25th, he was elected to the Student Council for his senior year. In his senior year, he played varsity basketball, participated in after-school gymnastics, and made the honor roll yet again. Near the end of senior year, Verle and his twin brother Merle announced identical future ambitions to the local paper, saying that after graduation they planned to work, take a vacation, go to the Army, and then attend college. Every school-age activity that Verle Peter Dills undertook, including announcing his future ambitions, he did alongside his twin brother Merle, which I imagine is common if not nearly certain among most twins. So here we have a seemingly complete portrait of young Verle Dills, an honor student, a student council member, a talented athlete at more than one sport, an engaged member of his community. So what went so terribly wrong? Despite appearing in the newspaper almost yearly between the ages of 8 and 18 from 1955 to 1965, all record of Verle Dills disappears for the next decade. I couldn't confirm whether or not he joined the Army as was his stated intention upon graduating. If he did, that would explain his disappearance from small-town life, and if he did, he would have gone straight to the Vietnam War, which may explain why his life seems to have taken such a turn. And if that is what happened, That's a tragedy. PTSD is a terrible thing, and I have nothing but respect for Verle's military service if indeed he served. But I don't know the answer to that one way or the other. Military records are not readily available online, and also, just to be fair to other Vietnam veterans, you see, humping street signs is really the least of Verle Dills' transgressions. And there are many, many veterans who come home from hell and live a life afterwards without going down a bizarre path like the one Verle followed. So I don't think it's right to blame everything on a war that he may or may not have served in, and yet, there are also many veterans who survived Vietnam only to face a future even more bizarre and tragic than that of Bubba Dills. So if he served, I offer nothing but respect for his service. But even if the Vietnam War did destroy his life, given what he did later, it's not fair to other vets to pin it all on PTSD. As I said, Verle Dills disappears from public mention for nearly 10 years between 1965 and 1975. And then, a little less than 10 years later actually, in February of 1975, Verle reappears in the newspaper, this time as the best man at the wedding of Linda White and Donald Seastead at the American Legion Hall in Papillion, Nebraska. 3 years later, in February of 1978, the Omaha World Herald reports that Verle Dills and his wife Jean have divorced. At this time, Verle would have been almost 31. Now, maybe the divorce was because of PTSD as well. Maybe it was something worse. Either way, Verle Dills would be only one of millions of men and women who could truthfully say that after his divorce, his life really went downhill. Verle either began or perhaps continued drinking heavily. In January 1934, at age 36, Dills was arrested for DUI and his license was suspended. In December of 1985, he got his second DUI. In 1986, his house was foreclosed on. In April of 1990, his furniture and other household possessions were sold at public auction. And in June of 1990, he was arrested for his third DUI in 6 years. And would you believe me if I told you that things haven't even started to get bad for Verle Dills yet? As far as anyone else knew, the next 17 years would be uneventful for Mr. Dills, until that fateful night in late July 2007. What you're about to hear is taken directly from an affidavit filed in the state of South Dakota versus Verle Dills. It's Officer Troy Duncan of the Sioux Falls Police Department's description of what happened that night. On July 30th, 2007, at approximately 5:45 a.m., police were called to the home of Chad Fodness at 1213 North Kiwanis Avenue on a report of a burglary in process. Once on the scene, officers were told by Mr. Fodness that a masked subject was in his backyard with a video camera. Fodness told officers that he was getting ready for work when he noticed movement by his window. He went outside and witnessed a male subject on his property between his house and garage carrying something in his hands. The subject was wearing a black trench coat, a brown mask that appeared to be pantyhose with cut-out eye holes, and mid-thigh-length black fishnet stockings. He was a Caucasian male, approximately 5 feet 7 inches tall, and 190 pounds with a potbelly. Fodness told officers that he then chased the subject for 2 blocks before giving up and yelling at the subject to not come back. He stated that he then returned to his house and several minutes later again saw the same subject in his backyard. So he went outside to confront the subject, at which time he realized that the subject was carrying a video camera and tripod. Officers indicated that the victim's property is fenced on the south side and the west side attached to the garage. Fodness told police that he again chased the subject and watched him run into the attached garage of the residence located at 2613 West Bailey Street. He stood outside that residence and watched both external doors and did not see anyone enter or leave until police arrived on the scene. Officers made contact with the resident of 2613 West Bailey Street, a Miss Doris Thyberg, and informed her that someone had run into the attached garage. Miss Thyberg allowed officers to clear the upper floor of the residence and the garage. They did not locate the 5'7" pot-bellied man in the trench coat, pantyhose mask, and thigh-high stockings. Miss Thyberg informed officers that she did rent a bedroom in the lower level of her residence to a subject she referred to as, quote, Bubba, unquote. She said that her residence was upstairs in the house, and that several rooms in the basement were commonly shared between herself and the tenant. Officers then made contact with Bubba, who was identified as Verle Peter Dills. Officer Peterson stated that upon contact with Mr. Dills, he was, quote, sweating profusely, breathing heavily, and appeared to be out of breath. Dills initially told officers that he'd just gotten out of bed. Officers indicated that when speaking with Mr. Dills, they could see in plain view 2 boxes that contained 8mm videotapes, commercial pornography in the form of VHS tapes, and a roll of duct tape. Officers also saw in plain view a VHS videotape player and 8mm video player, which were connected to a television. Mr. Dills initially denied having a video camera. Officer Phillips located in plain view a brown nylon stocking with eye holes cut out of it, which appears to have been fashioned into a mask. This was located in a common area of the basement between the entrance from the garage and Mr. Dills' room. Mr. Dills disclosed that the mask was his and that he had 2 other similar masks in his van. Pausing the story here for a second, oh my gosh. How many times have you seen someone in a pantyhose mask in a horror movie? And how terrifying would it be to look into your backyard early in the morning when it's still dark out and see someone in a pantyhose mask, a trench coat, and thigh-high fishnet stockings doing God knows what, feeling like if you can see them out your window, they can probably see you through your window. Yikes. Alright, so Dills admits to owning the pantyhose masks and then tells officers that he used the mask when he was painting. He eventually admits to the officers that he also owns a video camera and had in fact been in the victim's backyard with that video camera, wearing the mask and the black trench coat. He indicated that he was wearing the trench coat and the mask to provide camouflage, and then told officers that the video camera and the trench coat were located in his bedroom. Based on the information gathered, a search warrant was sought and granted, and then executed upon the premises. During the search warrant, numerous VHS tapes and 8mm tapes were seized. Upon reviewing the various tapes, they showed Mr. Dills involved in numerous simulated sex acts out in public and acts of exposing his genitalia over a period of approximately 3 years. The police interviewed Verle Dills, and during that interview he admitted that he was in all of the videotapes that were seized, and that he had recorded himself performing the various acts seen on the tapes. He admitted that he had been recording the tapes for approximately 2 to 3 years, and stated that he'd only had a video camera for that period of time. Okay, Zevon here for a moment. In case you did not heed my earlier warning, I will offer another one right now. What follows is a description of the contents of those videotapes, as provided in the court affidavit for the state of South Dakota versus Verle Peter Dills. So if it's not appropriate for you or someone you're listening with to hear a court-filed recounting of the sex acts shown on Verle Dills videotapes, please turn off the show now. If you're willing to wade in, well, here it comes. These recordings begin 3 years earlier in July of 2004. They are certainly bizarre, and you are allowed to laugh, scream, yell, or simply be shocked to silence. Sometime between July of 2004 and July of 2007, there is an incident where Mr. Dills is videotaping himself in his landlord's upstairs residence. He's dressed only in a black vest, a black rubber mask, and a black G-string. Mr. Dills is positioned in front of the open front door and is masturbating and humping and grinding on the door and door frames. He's heard to comment on the tape, "Come on, ladies," as he masturbates within plain view of the sidewalk, Bailey Street and Elmwood Park, which is located across the street. This appears to occur during daylight hours. During the same 3-year period, there's another incident where Mr. Dills is kneeling in the front door of his landlord's residence, again masturbating. The camera is positioned on the front lawn, filming him as he kneels in the open doorway and masturbates. In this instance, both the front door and the storm door are open, and Mr. Dills would be completely visible to anyone on the sidewalk, Bailey Street, or at Elmwood Park. This incident appears to occur during daylight hours. Also during the same time frame, there's an incident that is recorded where Mr. Dills has positioned himself near the corner of Bailey Street and Kiwanis Avenue. He is naked and kneeling on hands and knees. An automobile approaches on Bailey Street eastbound towards Kiwanis Avenue. Mr. Dills stands by the tree and, as the car passes, he comes out from behind the tree and is masturbating as he walks towards the car when it's driving off. Mr. Dills is within 5 to 10 feet of the vehicle as he masturbates. This appears to occur during the early morning hours as citizens are commuting to work. Gosh, as I read these descriptions, if this was happening in some kind of an R or NC-17 rated Will Ferrell comedy, I would probably be laughing. But now that I know who Verle Dills was before his life went so sideways, it's hard to see as much humor as I expected when I first read the "Man Humps Street Signs" headline, or really any humor at all. It appears that despite my best efforts, I may have gone and just told yet another very dark story of human horror. But that's what we do here on Kinda Murdery, so let's continue. On or about July 30th, 2004 to July 30th, 2007, Mr. Dills is positioned near the corner of Bailey Street and Kiwanis Avenue. He is naked and wearing a mask. Mr. Dills is visible on tape as he is simulating a sex act with a utility pole which is located in the boulevard. Mr. Dills is standing by the utility pole as a car approaches eastbound on Bailey and stops for the stop sign at Kiwanis Avenue. As the car pulls away, Mr. Dills is standing by the utility pole, shaking his penis and masturbating within 5 to 10 feet of the automobile. Mr. Dills then lays face down onto the lawn and, quote, humps, unquote, the ground. This incident also appears to have taken place in the morning hours during the beginning of citizens commuting to work. Okay, I just said this wasn't funny and now I'm laughing. I mean, stands by the utility pole shaking his penis is just like a little bit too much. It's a little bit too much for me. All right, there's more. During the same period of time, Mr. Dills has again filmed himself at the corner of Bailey Street and Kiwanis Avenue. He is naked with a mask on. Mr. Dills is kneeling in the gutter, masturbating. He then faces towards Kiwanis Avenue and masturbates as vehicles drive by. At one point, Mr. Dills comes across Bailey Avenue into Elmwood Park, where he has his camera set up and wags, this is a quote from the court filing, by the way, wags his penis in front of the camera. Mr. Dills then goes back to a tree near Kiwanis Avenue and humps on the tree trunk and the ground as cars drive by. This incident also appears to have taken place in the morning hours during the beginning of citizens' commute to work. Next, on or about July 30th, 2004 to July 30th, 2007, Mr. Dills has again positioned himself near the corner on Bailey Street and Kiwanis Avenue. As he films himself, Mr. Dills is naked near a tree in the boulevard when a vehicle approaches the stop sign located at Kiwanis Avenue. As the vehicle is stopped at the stop sign and preparing to pull away, Mr. Dills walks out from behind the tree and is masturbating within feet of the vehicle, again in the morning during a commute. I'm fully aware of the grim implications of some of this behavior, don't get me wrong, but man, the absurdity of the mental pictures, what is going on? Alright, 2 more to go here. Between July 2004 and July 2007, Mr. Dills is in front of his residence at the end of the driveway where it connects to Bailey Street. It is wintertime, and Mr. Dills is kneeling naked next to the snowbank, masturbating, looking towards his neighbor's house. Okay, and here it gets a little scarier. Mr. Dills is masturbating when the neighbor backs out of her driveway and drives westbound on Bailey Street, passing Mr. Dills, and he watches the vehicle and continues to masturbate. Mr. Dills is masturbating within approximately 5 to 10 feet as the neighbor passes him. At this time, it appeared to be very light outside and also appears to take place in the morning hours as the neighbor is leaving for work. And now we see how this behavior becomes significantly more sinister and really has nothing to do with banging street signs. It seems that because Mr. Dills was masturbating in the street near a stop sign or a utility pole, reporters who wanted to get clicks or reads came across this story and then sanitized it down to banging street signs so that it could be something that people just chuckle at, instead of what it actually is, a creep jerking off toward innocent women as they drive to work. Now, I didn't discover that that's what this story was until it was too late to back away, but we've only got 1 more of these to go. So, again, during that same time frame, between July of 2004 and July of 2007, Mr. Dills is again filming himself as he is positioned near the intersection of Bailey Street and Kiwanis Avenue. He is naked underneath a black knee-length trench coat and wearing a mask. Mr. Dills is visible as he humps on a tree and the ground. There is a lot of traffic visible northbound and southbound on Kiwanis Avenue as Mr. Dills continues this behavior and also masturbates. At one point, Mr. Dills kneels next to a tree with his bare buttocks facing Bailey Street as a vehicle stops at the stop sign within several feet of Mr. Dills. This also appears to happen in morning hours as citizens commute to work. The incidents described in this affidavit occurred in Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County, South Dakota. Sworn and signed, Officer Troy Duncan. Affidavit filed on July 31st, 2007, Minnehaha County, South Dakota Circuit Court. There's one last twist to darkness that Verle Dills' story takes here, which is it was discovered in investigating his case that one of these times he filmed himself masturbating, it was close enough to a passing school bus to legally be considered indecent exposure involving a child, which is of course horrendous. And Verle Dills was required to register as a sex offender, which, given all the evidence found on the videotapes that he made himself, he most certainly is. So that is the story of the increasingly dark life of Verle Dills. And I'm glad I got most of my jokes out of the way early because, as you can see, calling this story Man Humps Street Sign is misleading to the point of fabrication. I'm Zevon Odelberg, and this has been Kinda Murdery. I'll see you on Thursday. In the meantime, call and share your story at 888-MURDERY. That's 888-687-3379.
If you like the show, please subscribe, review, and tell your friends. You can find us on social media at Kinda Murdery or email at kindamurdery@gmail.com.